Uh, I don't have anything today, so here's a reminder.
It's time to drink water. It's time to drink water.
Studios. You hear a lot, or maybe you don't. It's one of the staples of looking at what studio is adapting your favorite manga, light novel, erogaze, I don't know. But this video's title, if I haven't changed it, is Anime Studios Need to Be More Greedy. It's a broad statement, but there's a lot to tell about studios on how they operate. Of course, I'm not telling studios to do this or this because I'm such a radiant rank level at operating a company. There's a lot of stuff about studios that most people don't know behind the scenes, and the most notable ones, not really, is the money side. When there's usually 100 to 200 plus people making an episode, it can cost a lot. And not just that, nowadays since digital animation is more prevalent now, that usually costs a lot. It can be a pretty hefty sum to maintain that. Of course, there's a lot of advantages when it comes to drawing digitally, some user-friendly tool for animating, or you don't have to scan every single sheets of paper to process them digitally for programs like coloring and such. Studios don't get a lot of money from the animes that they produce because they actually most of the time don't fund them themselves. Of course, most of you know the concept of production committees. It's a collective of a bunch of companies that does several different roles, like the actual copyright holders, distributors, companies that broadcast the shows, and a lot more. But we're gonna focus on the money side of things, I guess you can say. Shows usually get funded by multiple companies. The amount can be varied to negate risk if they don't believe that certain shows will do well revenue-wise. The revenue is split to multiple companies. Some can get more percentage if they fund the project more. Some can get less of the juice. Those money whores. Usually you can see who has the most percentage of the revenue from a show by the rankings in the production committee list. Higher in the list means that they get more revenue since they funded it more compared to the other companies, and lower, you get the point. That's why some aspects like the schedule are mostly not in the power of studios, leading to stuff being rushed. Committee can also have demands on how the show can look, like wanting it to have the manga art style to be more prevalent in the show, or wanting a more uniform look so it can have that broader appeal for normies. And this is mostly why it's so fucked for studios, not just in the money side, but how they treat the staff. They don't care how the quality of the final product will look or the well-being of the staff. Producers like to hide the fact that nothing is wrong behind the scenes, just a wall of PR text of, "Hey guys, sorry, it's the bad stuff again. Haha, sorry." This can also be with studios because they want to be looked as a very reliable studio to producers, so they can have that trust of giving them more shows to work on, even if the schedule for the show is absolute horseshit. Some worst examples of producers hiding the horrible conditions is with Wonder Egg Priority. Staff being sent to the hospital multiple times, and significant amount of episodes are only done a couple hours before being broadcasted. Aniplex had the brilliant idea of hiding the conditions when it was obvious to most already, to have the final episode of the 12 episode series that was supposed to have 13 episodes to be a one special episode. They did this because the episode that was supposed to be the finale wasn't even storyboarded yet. That's why the one episode special came out 3 months prior when the series finished airing. And another one, like Magia Record, the show was supposed to be a 24 episode season, but with the conditions being tragic, new paddock, my shit automatic, and the series having over 5 delays, they split it to 3 seasons that subsequently had lesser amount of episodes than usual since it wasn't planned to be like this. But you know, Aniplex. Thank you Aniplex again for the you know what? Yeah, keep going. It is hard to maintain a stable revenue for studios, so funding an anime is probably rarely in the higher ups' mind since they can't quote-unquote make a profit. Teikoku Databank published a report in 2021 that 39.8% out of the 309 anime production companies surveyed that they were in the red. Of course, this accounts to all studios, not just the biggest studios like Mappa, Toei, all of those studios. Only 2% of Japanese studios actually published the financial reports, and you can see that even recognizable studios are in the red, very in the red. Most of these are 2024, but some of them are from 2021 or 2020, etc. So it's pretty ambiguous to even try to fund their own show when something so popular can't even make them profit. Only the giants like Bunny Walker, Oh shit, sorry. Toei, Mappa, Bandai Namco / Sunrise, TMS Entertainment, Pure Production IG can fund some of their shows because they produce some of the biggest IPs out there. In Toei's case, when Sailor Moon Crystal was funded, in the committee it was only Toei and Kodansha. They also did the same thing with Kyoso Giga. Of course, some of these studios are not just the studio that produced the animes, but they also sometimes are the producers for some of the animes. That's why they're more profitable and they can do that since money, money, money. Ufotable and KyoAni is the perfect example of doing mostly everything in-house, so that negates the costs, and they also fund the projects themselves with some other committees. KyoAni is a special case since they do pretty much everything in-house, and they have a thing called the Kyoto Animation Awards, probably better than the Crunchyroll one. So technically they own the material and they have more leverage, a lot more leverage than most studios, since also their shows are mostly popular in Japan. Also, another thing, go back to the list. Some of you might see some unknown studios like Studio Chiptone or Kusagani. Well, they mostly work on specific roles, like Kusanagi specifically works on background art stuff, while Studio Chiptone works on various stuff like second key animation, doga, all of that shit. It's a big market for these stuff. Same with big studios. They usually do side jobs like having their staff do second key animation, background art, or in-betweenings for different projects because it's money. Now, some studios can fund projects, but sometimes it cannot be the best. Mappa fully funded Chainsaw Man, so they give a lot of the revenue for themselves. Usually passion projects like these are so that animators can express their talent with very flexible scheduling, etc. But what Mappa did, or more accurately, Manabu Otsuka, was the next wave of human slavery. Chainsaw Man was picked up by him, which consequently had the same team as JJK Season 2. Toho gave JJK Season 2 about a year and a half, maybe a bit more, to produce Season 2. While it's not the best schedule, it would have been a blessing to have, but everything got interrupted with Chainsaw Man that took a year to make. That also led to JJK being the most fucked up production ever. People speculate that it only had like 7 to 8 months production time for a 24 mostly action oriented anime. It's actually so stupid. This was because Otsuka wanted to make Chainsaw Man because most of the money goes to him. He was greedy. Same goes for a newer studio, E&H Production. Sangwoo Park was a pivotal staff for Mappa when Masao Maruyama was still the president. He directed a lot of shows in the studio like Garo, God of High School, and JJK Season 1. In March 2021, he established A&H Production as the representative for the studio. In early 2004, they made Monster a 1 ONA episode, and the famous Anime Original of the Year, Ninja Cowboy. Woo! And most of you know the problem that this is what happens when you start a studio, then just go straight to producing a 13 episode anime. Even the 1 episode ONA, visually sometimes it looked pretty broken and unfinished in a way. Sangwoo Park can't carry every single thing, even if its output is very monstrous. Yes, some productions can be very ambitious to the point that most of the episodes can't get a lick of that production value. A good example is with Ryu Nakayama's studio. Very well known for directing Chainsaw Man, he established his studio called Andruft in 2023. And what he did, he picked up very smaller projects like commercials, PVs, and even OPs like that Doctor House anime thing that mostly is like 2 minutes or less, and sometimes have their staff do key animation or second key animation in different projects that's not in the studio. This is the best way to do it, to slowly build your foundation and resources so that when you are ready, you can produce a full season anime. I mean, AK had the balls to do it, but dog shit, 3D outsourcing bitches. Profits are very hard for studios, so that leads to most of their projects being funded by other companies. But there is examples of studios that beats the norm, producing their projects while also chipping in their own money. Gohans can do it. I mean, maybe their studio is also a drug house, but who knows? KyoAni, Ufotable did it, but you know, it is not the norm of anime industry, so it is very hard to be like that. If you guys like this video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a like. Comment down below what are your thoughts about this studio. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys next time.